Okay, it's Paula from Plantland back for the start of the 2022 gardening season. It's here, it's upon us. February in Montana means that the first thing we're doing is thinking about starting seeds. And so I'm going to talk a little bit here about why we start seeds. We start seeds for a couple different reasons. One is to have a better selection of plants, that you're not just limited to the ones that we grow from seed and offer you for sale. There are lots of different varieties available on the racks of all kinds of different plants. So a better selection is one reason to grow things from seed. The second reason to grow things from seed is so that you have more control over the process. If you're concerned about staying organic, if you're buying especially some of the organic seeds, you'd be able to stay organic from start to finish in your garden. And lastly, the reason you should grow things from seed is because it's going to save you a little bit of money. It's not going to save you a ton of money, but it's going to save you some money to grow your own plants from seed and have them to put out. That said, we're going to just touch briefly on what you grow from seed. Not everything in Montana needs to be grown from seed so that we have little plants to put out in May. A lot of our garden vegetables can be what we call direct sown, meaning that they can be put directly in the ground. Carrots are a good example of this. Radish is a good example. Lettuce is a good example. Things like melons or tomatoes or peppers or cucumbers are things that we really should put small plants out, which means we should start seeds ahead of time. So when you're looking through the seed racks, you may buy all your seeds at one time, but you wouldn't necessarily be going to start them at the same time. We actually have handouts on our website. There's some of these up here, seedlings or plants and when you should do it, and some handouts for all of the information that I'm trying to give you today. So seed starting is something we cover in great detail on our website, which is plant-land.com. Lots of good handouts out there that I've written over there in the 20 years plus that I've been here at Plantland. So, for the very first thing we're going to talk about with our seed starts is seed starting mix. What we use to start seedlings in. There's a reason why we use something that's specifically called seed starting mix. If you look at it, and Michelle can tell me when I'm getting too close to the camera, you can see that it's a very fine ground, very soft material. Doesn't have any big lumps in it, any big pieces of anything in it. What it is ground peat, ground perlite, ground vermiculite, usually ground up forest products, meaning wood chips and things like that. It actually contains no soil, which is an interesting thing about a lot of these products. One of the reasons you use seed start is because these seeds are going to be sending out tiny, tiny new roots that can be just as small as the diameter of a hair. And it needs to have something soft and easy to get through. Potting soil, and this is bagged potting soil, the twofold that we use here at Plantland, you can see is quite a bit coarser. It has bigger things in it, bigger pieces in it. Again, it's a soilless mix though. It doesn't really contain any garden soil in it. We don't usually use straight garden soil for starting seeds because there's too many diseases and pathogens that could be in it. Now you will find recommendations that say that you can sterilize your garden soil and use it for seed starting. And that's very true, you can. The problem with that is it's not going to have that really fine tilth the way the seed start does. It's not going to be this real fine stuff. So one of the other things to know about using seed start is the easiest way to use it to save yourself the headache of watching your seeds float away is to dampen this quite well before you put it in your containers. And we're going to switch to containers in just a second. And by dampening it quite well, I mean much more than it is. It needs to be damp enough that if I put a handful in my fist and I squeeze it, when I open my hand, that stays together in a ball. When I close my hand, not too much water is running out of my fingers. That's when it's at just the right dampness for what we're trying to do with starting seeds. And then we're going to talk about the containers you use to start seeds. Lots of choices in containers. Anything from small plastic, peat containers, and coconut fiber containers. I really like these coconut fiber containers. I think they biodegrade quite well. And there's a difference between these things in terms of what your plants want. A garden start like a cucumber or a squash resents being transplanted. They're as bad as a 14-year-old with being resentful. So what happens is, if you have it in a plastic pot and you try to pop it out of this plastic pot, actually I should grab a bigger one. You try to pop it out of this plastic pot and then plant it, the cucumber plant or squash plant is very apt to wilt, to go down after you've done it, because it doesn't like being transplanted. So for those, we typically recommend that you use a biodegradable pot like these peat pots, which rot in the soil. So you're not going to take anything off of this. You're just going to put it directly down into your garden and plant it. Sometimes we tear the bottoms off of them. I do that every once in a while, but I don't do it very often. It's only if I know that there's a root mass down there, that I've started my seeds too early. And they're a little bit root bound. The other thing we use are these Jiffy Peat starter pods. These little discs, when you put them in a cup of water, poof up and become this. So you put, these are really great. I use these for my pea plants. Peas in these. And then you just plant this whole thing in the ground. And again, this little netting that's on it is biodegradable, and the plant's not going to be disturbed in any way. The other thing I do like to remind people about containers for starting seeds, even though we sell all this great stuff, this fancy stuff, it's a great opportunity to reuse and recycle plastics that you have in the house. I'm talking about yogurt containers, egg cartons, and things like that. Just remember that you do have to provide drainage holes no matter what you use, okay? The next thing to look at that I'm surrounded by here are all the different kinds of flats and systems that we have. So these are all, here and here, are all kind of easy peasy systems that you can use. So this one, for example, has coconut fiber in a flat. So you would fill these with seed start, and your little coconut fiber pots, which are like these, are right here for you to be able to just plant right into the ground. It's a nice compact system. It's something that you'd have to replace the coconut fiber every year, but I always tell people if you take good care of your plastic flats, they last forever. Other kinds of systems. This is something a little fancier with a little different growing medium. It's supposed to be a little bit better for your plants. I'm lifting it just here. It feels like it's damp, it's heavy, so it's something that is very useful to use. And then of course we have smaller kits, greenhouse kits for the windowsill that have the clear domes included. But if you're not interested in doing it that way, and there's tons and tons of kits here, you can always just buy plain old flats. The thing to pay attention to is this is a flat that doesn't have drainage holes. This is a flat that does have drainage holes. Quite often we put one inside the other and then put our pots inside. And these are all sized to accommodate standardized garden sizes. The other thing that you're seeing in these kits are what are called grow domes that hold moisture and heat in for your poor little plants. That's a pretty basic overview of seed start and seedling, or seed start and seed. Michelle just made a noise and distracted me. That's a pretty basic overview of seed start. I see we have some shallow trays too that don't have holes that you could use like this. We use these here at Plantland for things like perennials, and I'm going to actually do a little class on growing perennials. This is a nice shallow tray that you can use as a protector for surfaces, or you can use it to plant. And then of course, if you're not doing any kind of pots to start with, you can start things in 6-packs, and there are all sizes and all kinds of different things for 6-packs that you can get. That's a very quick overview. All of this is on our website, plant-land.com, for more information on specifically about seed start and about pots and the differences between them, and about flats. We're going to do a few more of these videos, so this will continue with some more of the information you need to have in another video. This is Paula from Plantland getting you started for the 2022 growing season. Happy gardening!